Hi there, I'm Cam Stockhausen. Welcome to my channel, Cam Stock Channel. I am going to introduce myself today, and instead of telling you all the things that people tell you, I'm just going to tell you one of the most important stories of my life, and that's my journey through MS. I used to have a blog, and I wrote about my journey through MS there, and it turned out to be a very popular blog. And basically, it's information for people who are recently diagnosed with MS. And probably their families, I guess. I'd like to introduce where I am. This dog is Polly. He belongs to the farm here. This is beautiful Spring Valley Farm. This is a historic barn where George Webster used to hunt foxhounds out of here. And it's just beautiful. And I'm so grateful and happy to be here. Probably throughout the video, you will meet Doug, my faithful Beagle Blue Heeler pup. She'll probably appear here or there because I'm going to walk down and talk about what I do. Okay, so I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and if you're watching this, you probably know well what that is, but if you are new here, it's a neurodegenerative disease that is really not fun, and there's several kinds of it. There's relapsing remitting, which is what I had, and there is primary progressive, which is a lot more virulent. That's a hard word for me to say. It always has been. And it's a different thing, and I'm not talking about that today. I'm talking about relapsing remitting MS. So about 15 years ago, I woke up one morning and my left eye only had black and white vision. I didn't have any color vision. This is Howdy. He's 12 years old. He's my thoroughbred friend. And it was very weird because I woke up on that Saturday morning and I'm like, I only have black and white vision in my left eye. My right eye is perfect. I have plenty of color vision. You stop. And when I went out to feed the horses that morning, I'm kind of playful anyway, and I would just close my right eye and be like, is Humphrey Bogart going to walk into the viewfinder, or what's going on with that? And then close your left eye and everything's bright colors and the whole thing. So after I got done with the chores, it occurred to me that, I probably should get this checked out. So for whatever reason, I was able to get in with my ophthalmologist on a Saturday, which is amazing. And this is Sammy. He's 20, how old are you? He's 24, so he's 23 years old. And this is my former prelim horse. He's a good boy. And he got me in, the ophthalmologist got me in, and I've been going to him for years. So he is kind of a friend of mine. And he seemed very concerned when he told me I had optic neuritis. And optic neuritis, somewhere I had read, is one of the most common first symptoms of MS. So he didn't say MS because it's not his diagnosis to make, but he sent me to a neurologist. So as I was leaving there, Tully, this is Tully. Yes, he's a boarder here and he's fabulous and he's got a little sawdust in his eyelashes. So he sent me to the neurologist, and the neurologist is like, Dr. Spencer, he's great. You need to have an MRI to see what's going on in your brain. I'm like, that doesn't sound like fun. And an MRI, if you've ever had one, is a very loud machine, and it used to be louder. So this is 15 years ago when it was super loud. This is Santi. He's a quarter horse, and he is a boarder here as well. He's a good boy. They were very loud, but he said, well, just bring in some CDs and we'll play them for you. So I brought in Queen, Night at the Opera, because I thought, it's loud, it's fun, let's do that. So I listened to Queen while they did my MRI. Hi, Polly. And this is Esprit, who would very desperately like a cookie. He's a Lusitano. He is my horsey. He just came here. So they took the MRI, and I had 5 lesions. And apparently you need 6 to be diagnosed with MS. Or else I had 4 lesions and it takes 5, whatever. I was 1 short. This is Gigi. And Gigi's very interested right now in her hay, so you can't see her. She's fabulous. She's a little Dutch warm blood. And so he couldn't give me a diagnosis of MS yet. And so then I was kind of in limbo, because you don't know what's going on. You have all these weird symptoms, but you don't know what's going on. Well, um, I recovered my vision in about, I think 4 or 5 days of rest and eating well. Oh, that's Karma. She's an off-track thoroughbred. She was mad I didn't introduce her. I'm sorry. Hi, Karma. She's lovely. She's a border too. And this is Maria. Sorry, Marie, my bad. Sorry, I got your name wrong. And she is also a border, and she's 32 years old. Love her. So um, I recovered from that, and then I went back to my life of riding and teaching and training and all these things. And then I took my horse down to Heritage Park Horse Trials in near Kansas City. And I really did not want to ride the horse that I had cross country. His name was Shark, and he was a good horse, but he was a little funny. And I just thought this jump with the ditch under it, that is not going to go well. And so I went to bed the night before, and I woke up in the morning and I had double vision. Now, if you've ever had double vision, if you've never had double vision, it's not something you would wish on anybody, because you can't even look directly at something without just being really disoriented and sort of painful in a weird way. Not like directly painful like a broken leg, but just like your brain hurts, like what's not right, I can't figure it out. So had that going on. And so I went back to Dr. Spencer and had another checkup. And then we had another MRI. And then I had 5 or 6 lesions, whatever was required to have MS. And then I went down to St. Louis to go to some specialists, and they're like, yeah, you have MS, but it's like the borderline kind. So if you change your diet, reduce your stress, take really good care of yourself, you might only have like a slight reduction in vision, like, pretty much everybody does when you get old. So still terrifying, because still definitely an MS diagnosis, but they were like, yeah, you should just take care of yourself and you'll probably be okay. So I read Dr. Swank's book about how diet affects MS, and his book was chronicling his research and what he had done. So basically what he had done is he developed this system of eating, which is pretty close to the American Cancer Society recommended diet, with the exception that he adds in cod liver oil. That's good fun, but it's mostly for the vitamin D, so now you could just take vitamin D. And also no red meat for the first year. And the no red meat for the first year was actually kind of hard for me, because I grew up in Wisconsin, so it's a lot of meat and a lot of cheese and stuff like that. And cheese isn't meat, but basically when I was giving up red meat, I was like, well, I kind of like the idea of not killing things for my food. So what if I don't inconvenience things either? And I thought about dairy cows and their lives. And, it's not all suffering. I'm not saying it's, the worst thing ever, but I'm like, it's not the greatest thing ever either. So I took out meat and cheese for a year, and that was an eye opener. You start to learn to use spices and things like that. And I just thought, I'll do this for a year and then I'll feel better. And I was thinking I would go back to my other life. But doing it for a year made me feel so much better. And I didn't have any exacerbations, which is what we call those times when you have symptoms. So that was a really good thing for me. So then I was like, all right, well, I'll add the red meat back in, but I'll tail it way back. And, I'll continue doing the yoga, which I'd done, which had been a really, really big help for Sammy, a really, really big help for stress reduction and also tuning into my body and breathing, just not holding my breath all the time and being nervous and worried. That's a dog door. Keeps the dogs out because he's a slow eater. Works really well. So it went pretty well for that first year. I didn't have any exacerbations. And by the way, I went on Copaxone when I was diagnosed, which is a daily shot. And when you have a shot, you can't be in denial that you're sick. And I was kind of in denial at times because like I would have an exacerbation and I'd be like, I'm awesome, right? I'd be completely recovered in, 5 or 10 days and then just back to my life and riding horses and, eating bad food and la, 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 right? So, but when I had to take a shot every day, and usually in that lovely little fat roll we have here, and, sometimes here and sometimes in the buttocks, but you can't be in denial when you have to do that every day. Anyway, in that first year with the change in diet, with the stress reduction, adding the yoga, and just being more careful about, saying yes too much. It's good to say yes, but it's also good to say no. So um, I felt so much better. I didn't have any more exacerbations that year. But after time went on, I got a little lackadaisical, like you do. I was like, oh, I haven't had an exacerbation forever, and I'm off the drugs, and I haven't had, blah, 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 blah. So like 2 years goes by. And I'm still doing all the reading that I do about MS because I'm like, why did this happen to me? They don't seem to know what causes MS. And, so I read a whole bunch of research on PubMed about why it happens. And one of the things I came across was that vitamin D is a huge factor in MS. And vitamin D is actually not a vitamin, it's a hormone. What? Yeah. It should be called hormone D. It's a hormone. So it's a hormone that's produced by our body by the sun shining on our skin. That's one way to produce it. And if we lived in Africa or Italy, in the south part of it, we'd get enough sun all year and we'd be fine. But if you live above about 40 degrees north or below about 40 degrees south, you're not getting enough vitamin D. That's just what it is. And because you're not getting enough vitamin D, you have a wide variation in how much vitamin D you have in your body. Remember, vitamin D is one of the fat-soluble vitamins. A, D, E, and K are the fat-soluble ones. So if you have vitamin D come into your body, it'll get stored in your fat. So you can slow burn it through the winter and probably have enough. So that's really nice. If it was water-soluble, we'd really be in trouble. Because what happens is, in the summertime, if you let the sun touch your skin will make, and you don't have sunblock on, your skin will make vitamin D to carry your body through that day and also store some in your fat. I don't know why I always say here, I do not have fat thighs. At least I don't think I do. I don't know. But it'll store it in your body and you'll have enough for the winter. So, but if not, you'll have a wide variation. Like you'll have enough or a little too much in the summertime. And then it'll drop off in autumn when you don't have any coming in. And if you don't have much stored, it'll just keep going down until you get a very, very low reading. And then spring comes and the sun starts to come out again. And you let the skin touch your body and you start to produce vitamin D. And then you feel a lot better. It's one of the reasons we feel a lot better in summer. Most people have higher vitamin D levels in summer. And it is absolutely the reason, low vitamin D is the reason for seasonal affective disorder. I tell all my friends, any of my friends would tell you that I'm probably annoying about it, but you have to take vitamin D in winter if you live above 40 degrees north latitude or south of 40 degrees south latitude. It's just what it is. For me, my MS exacerbations always happened in the autumn months. So September, October, and early November was when I had all of my exacerbations. I don't really think that that is coincidental. I think that my body does not like the change in the vitamin D. When it really hit bottom, pretty much freaked out and started attacking itself, because that is what happens in MS. Your body's antibodies attack your myelin sheath of your neurons, and any number of things can happen. So for one of my exacerbations, the whole right side of my body was tingling. I mean, exactly half tingling. So that can happen. You can lose color vision in your left eye. You can get really depressed because your brain is full of neurons, right? So if they're not working right, you get depressed. So there's a lot of different things that can happen, which is why MS is really hard to diagnose. So vitamin D is really an important thing in MS recovery and maintenance if you've been diagnosed with MS. So I found out all that, and then I started to have that distant feeling, that bellwether, that I was going to have another exacerbation. And it's hard to explain what that feeling is. Oh, wait, I can give you one. This was a thing that happened when I was about to have an MS exacerbation. So if I was trying to set something on a table, like if I was going to set it like right on the edge, like that's what I intended, I would set it like right here. Like things were not actually where I thought they were. Even though I didn't perceive any strangeness in my field of vision, it was shown that it wasn't correct by the fact that I would do this and it would fall on the floor. Speaking of that, the other thing I would do is, you know how when you lightly hold something, you just kind of lightly hold it in your hand? When I had about to have an MS exacerbation, or if I was in one, it would be very common for me to drop it. Like you couldn't hold anything lightly. Because holding something lightly is harder to do than holding it tightly. Like if you hold it tightly, that's easy. You know you got it. But to hold it lightly and sort of let it just be in your hand as you're walking around, that's a little harder. And I would lose that before I would have an exacerbation because I'd been through it enough times that I knew this. And the other symptom I would get pre-exacerbation was like a tiny white dot and a tiny white dot there, more like a spark. So it's kind of like those things when you're testing your visual fields. You know, you look in there and they say push the button when you see that little spark of light. I would have that in real life. But it wouldn't be all the time. It'd just be like once in a while. And you're like, that's not good. So I had read all this stuff about vitamin D. And you guys are really good listeners. I had read all this stuff about vitamin D. And then I got the feeling I was going to get an exacerbation. So and I do not recommend this, hi Shabby, I took 70,000 international units of vitamin D for 5 days. Now, I knew you wouldn't kill yourself doing that because I had read a lot about that. The people who have had vitamin D poisoning, it has come from usually dosage errors. The one doctor who really hurt himself thought he was taking 160,000 international units, which is still a whole lot. That's a whole lot. Like you don't want to do that either. But he was taking 1.6 million and he did it for a year. Hello, yeah, he got really sick. But he didn't die, and he was hospitalized. Now, what are you sad about? What are you sad about? Because there's no cookies? Huh? Oh, it's sad. It's sad. So he didn't die, and he had to go to the hospital, and they helped him recover. And you can't like give him water because it's not a water-soluble vitamin, but they just had to support him until his body cleared it. I don't know what part of the body does that. I would guess the liver, but I don't know. You can look it up if you like. So I don't have any cookies. So you don't have to worry too much about getting a vitamin D overdose. But, you know, you want to be sensible and you want to work with your neurologist. So anyway, 70,000 international units of vitamin D. Over 6 days later, I felt a lot better and I didn't have an exacerbation. And I was like, that is awesome. I have a new superpower. It's vitamin D. But then I was like, that was like the dumbest thing I've ever done. I should have talked to my neurologist before I did that because you could really hurt yourself and that's not cool. So I got like, I would say not emergency, but kind of stepped up appointment with my neurologist. And I'm like, Dr. Spencer, I did a really stupid thing. And I told him and I fessed up to it. And I also told him that I didn't have the exacerbation that I was about to have. And he's a great doctor because he was like, okay, so that was dumb and you know it, right? And I'm like, yeah, that was super stupid. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry to you, but I'm also like, sorry to myself. That was dumb. And he goes, yes, it was. And he goes, how did your experiment with an N of 1 go? Then I'm like, oh, yay, science joke. So I told him that, you know, I didn't have my exacerbation and I felt really good. And he's like, that's great information to have about your body. He said, so now let's work together and monitor your vitamin D blood level, figure out what it takes to keep you between 80 and 100 nanograms per milliliter. I'm like, that's a great plan. So that's what we did for like the next 2 years. And what it turned out to be is that because I don't wear sunblock all the time, I let myself have some sun and then I put on some sunblock. So not a lot of sun, like 20 minutes, you know, like have some sun, put on some sunblock. That's harder to do than I just put on sunblock early in the morning. But sunblock blocks your body's ability to make vitamin D from sunlight. So if you're out in the sun with sunblock at the beach all day, you're going to get some sun because there's going to be some part of your body that isn't covered entirely by the sunblock or something, something, something. But you're not going to get very much. So we have to allow our bodies to work correctly. So anyway, that's how that works. So the vitamin D was a really big factor. The other factor was reducing my stress. And I was in a relationship that was very emotionally one-sided. That is the best way I can describe it. And it was exhausting. And I think I abandoned my inner child, if you want to go that far. Like I quit thinking about what was good for me, and it was all about what's good for us or what's good for you. And that is saddening and it's embarrassing. And I'm glad I learned that about myself. I think that's what MS was here to teach me, is that, yeah, it's good to like be a part of something, but you also have to, I don't want to say look out for yourself because that's not it. It's don't abandon yourself. So anyway, got a little metaphorical there, but that was a big factor. And yoga really helped me learn about breathing, really just breathing, because most of us are walking around holding our breath with our shoulders up like this and worried about everything. So that was really helpful. I also was able to change my job from full-time to half-time, my job at the university, and ride horses more and teach more. So, you know, that's an unusual availability of solutions, but there are solutions out there. You know, it's just how bad do you want it? How much do you want to be well? So it sounds, you know, a job at the university is a lot easier than a job in horses. And I don't mean physically, I just mean like you have to be the whole package. You have to be a good rider. You have to have a good eye for horses. You have to be able to deal well and sanely with people. In my opinion, you have to be honest. I think that's not everywhere. And honesty sometimes requires saying some things that people don't want to hear. And you have to be able to deal with that too. So the reduction of stress is a big thing for MS. So whatever that is for you, the stress of being a horse trainer was less stressful to me than the stress of working in an office. Even though working in an office, I always knew where the money was coming from. As a trainer and a coach, you know, you eat what you kill. So that can be a little bit difficult. Some other things I did to reduce stress, believe it or not, is Epsom salt baths. And this is another thing that my friends will tell you that I talk about a lot. I still don't have cookies. I still don't. No, I'm a bad person. So, but Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate, has a lot of good things for you. So magnesium and vitamin D work together. So magnesium helps, oh no, excuse me, that's vitamin K that does that. Okay. Magnesium is just fantastic anyway. So it helps with energy and all those other things. And then I should mention that if you are taking vitamin D, it's a good idea to take a supplement with vitamin K as well. Vitamin K is the thing that tells the body where to put the magnesium and calcium. Okay, and we want that to be put into like our bones or whatever. We don't want it to be built up in our joints, which is arthritis, right? So vitamin D, vitamin K, and magnesium. And sulfate in Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate. Sulfate is also really good for you. I don't know how. It's another thing you can look up, but it's also really good for you. Everybody needs it. So Grandma was right. Magnesium sulfate bath, absolutely. And that's just Epsom salt. You can buy it anywhere. It's cheap. If you don't have a bathtub you like, which I don't at the moment, mine is too small for me. What a shocker. I'm 6'3". You can take a dishpan and put a bunch of magnesium in it and soak your feet. And you can soak it transdermally into your body. It literally, magnesium sulfate, they've proven it, it's real science, will go through your skin into your body and you'll have a higher magnesium level. They didn't measure the sulfate level in the study that I was reading, so I can't guarantee that that will be absorbed transdermally, but I can tell you your magnesium level will go up. And that's a super handy thing. And not everybody needs magnesium, and not everybody needs vitamin D. Many people are okay with their levels, but what if you just supplement it for a week and saw if you felt better? You're not going to hurt yourself in a week, and if you don't overdo the amount, you should be fine. And also, just paying attention to your body is a super handy thing. It's handy for your health, and it's really super handy for riding. What? You are so naughty. You're bored. They're very bored. It's terrible outside, which is why they're in. It's the worst weather for a horse as far as I'm concerned. It's 40 degrees. You're so naughty. 40 degrees and raining, which is gross. So they're all in, which is really unusual. My horses are usually out 24/7 if they can. And then one person I didn't mention earlier that I want to talk about is Dr. Reinhold Vieth. He is a leading researcher on vitamin D. He's in Canada, and he's hysterical. And I'll put a link in below the video of his video about vitamin D. And basically his premise is everything I said about vitamin D and more. And he also said, but one of the important things was at the end of his study, he asked people if they just felt better, if they were happier. And many of them said, yeah, I'm just happier. And really, that alone is enough to get your vitamin D up. So as far as my life now, I am in remission from, you're so cute. I'm in remission from MS. I have not had an exacerbation in, 10 years. I'm not even keeping track anymore. I don't even think about it. I have become a whole food plant-based diet eater. But I sort of eat meat the way they do in the Bible, like kill the fatted calf when something great happens. I will eat meat. It's not like you can only eat vegetables, but I just really think for me, eating meat doesn't make me feel good. It feels like super heavy. And if I eat like a late meal and go to bed and have icky heaviness, it's terrible. I have bad dreams. So I'm much happier with fruits and vegetables and grains and stuff like that. So, I think it would be nice if people would try it with an open mind and see how they felt, right? But I'm not here to change anybody because nobody's going to change from what I say about eating a whole food plant-based diet. But I can tell you that it makes me feel better. And having changed my diet and changed my lifestyle and added vitamin D, I am feeling very well, like as well as I have ever felt. So I just want to share my journey through MS. If you are recently diagnosed or you know somebody who is, have faith. Look at the couple of things I said: vitamin D, magnesium sulfate, vitamin K, lower your stress, be good to yourself, get connected to the man or the woman. She could be a woman. I don't know. I suspect genderless. But do all those things and take care of yourself. And, you might have the same grace I have. I don't even think about MS anymore. So this is my first video on my new channel, and now you know me a little better. Good luck to you.